Welcome to the Underline This podcast, the podcast where we unpack the big ideas, hide in the margins, because the best parts, they're between the lines. Change is inevitable. At times, we can ease into it, like we're slowly dipping into a cold swimming pool, or at other times, it comes at us without warning, like being sucker punched in a New York subway. There's been a lot of turbulence, unpredictability, and change recently with the economy, tariffs, and the AI wave. In my day-to-day interactions with coworkers and friends, there's a general feeling of anxiety about the future. Instead of hyperventilating and losing sleep over it, I'm reminded by my humble days as a history major. And one big learning outcome from that I'm reminded of is that the world is nothing but change. And change is nothing new. Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, and Robert Greene, the author of 48 Laws of Power, wrote a book actually about adapting to change, which I highly recommend, called The 50th Law. And it's filled with one-liner gems almost on every page. I highly recommend it. And here's one that I think rings true. You can't control the world, but you can control how you respond to it. There will be a review one day about the 50th Law because it really is an amazing book, but not today. There's another life-changing book that applies 12 facets of life, and it's timeless, and it resonates with me more today than ever. And I hope others can be inspired by its message. And this book is Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. It's a motivational business fable that teaches readers how to adapt to change in work and life. Again, it's timeless and can be applied to any scenario. It's a simple parable about four characters who live in a maze and are in search for cheese. And the cheese can represent many things, such as happiness, success, or fulfillment. Now, to make it more general, I like to think of the cheese as opportunities. Now, when the cheese disappears, each character reacts differently, thus revealing how different people might respond to change or when something's taken away, like an opportunity or fulfillment or happiness. And it's considered a classic and has even become a part of corporate trainings at IBM, PepsiCo, and General Motors. And a side note, what I think makes this such a powerful read is that it follows a pattern of teaching that some of history's greatest teachers have followed, teaching through storytelling, allegories, or parables. It's how Christ, the Buddha, and other great teachers taught. Now, before we break down the story, let's talk about Spencer Johnson. Dr. Spencer Johnson, give credit where credit's due, lived from 1938 to 2017. He graduated in psychology from the University of Southern California, USC, and earned a medical degree from the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, which is very impressive. He worked as a physician, author, psychologist, and management consultant. He co-authored another famous book called The 1 Minute Manager with Ken Blanchard, and the story, Who Moved My Cheese, was inspired by Johnson's observations as a physician, seeing how patients who accepted change, such as lifestyle adjustments, healed faster. Now, he had a unique writing style and was known for using simple parables in order to explain complex human behavior. And in the previous books that I mentioned before, like The 1 Minute Manager, Johnson used his short stories to teach about leadership and change management. He believed stories were a faster vehicle for understanding rather than giving lectures. And you might say the proof is in the pudding because Who Moved My Cheese became one of the best-selling books and sold over 30 million copies. And the book was initially rejected by publishers who thought it was too simplistic. This really is a short book, maybe about 60 to 80 pages, just going off the top of my head. And it wasn't until Ken Blanchard, Johnson's co-author of The 1 Minute Manager, endorsed it that it became a big seller. Now for the story. Who Moved My Cheese has four main characters. These are Sniff and Scurry, two mice who quickly adapt when the cheese is gone. They immediately start searching for new cheese once they've said the cheese has disappeared. And then there's Hem and Haw, two little people, miniature humans, who overthink and resist change. Hem refuses to leave. Haw struggles, but eventually learns to move on. And as the story progresses, Haw learns that adapting to change leads to new opportunities, while Hem remains stuck, clinging to the past. And the story is amazingly profound and relatable, especially when it comes down to how the characters respond to their cheese being taken away or becoming spoiled. In case I'm not being clear, our four characters are in hot pursuit of cheese. Some realize that without it, they will die, and they use that fact to motivate them to change their circumstances. Along the way, they leave each other messages on the maze walls, which we'll unpack here in a moment. If we pause and relate the story to us, we can see that we're all in a maze called life, and our cheese is constantly moving. That cheese could be a relationship that's going bad, being laid off from a job, or living complacently. It's up to us to realize that our cheese will be taken away, and the only control we have is how we respond. So let's dive into the main ideas and scratchings on the maze walls. First, quote, change happens, accept it early. Change is in our atoms. And look no further for evidence of change than looking back at dinosaurs who existed millions of years ago, and somehow we replaced them. Change is inevitable, and our cheese will move. Life, relationships, and careers constantly change. Those who cling to the past will stay in the past. And have you ever met someone who peaked in high school? Not the most pleasant of people. Enough said. Second, adapt quickly. The faster you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can find new cheese. I mentioned the book, The 50th Law by 50 Cent and Robert Greene. I'll mention it again here later on. But this book is all about principles for evolving and adapting, referencing life experiences from 50 Cent. And what makes 50 so impressive is that he started out as a rapper, which in of itself is impressive, and evolved to be an entrepreneur, author, screenwriter, actor, and musician. We need to evolve quickly, or we'll end up like the dinosaurs, extinct. So follow the example of 50, not the dinosaur. Third, monitor change. We should be self-aware and equally aware of our surroundings. Learn to smell the cheese often, so you know when it's beginning to spoil. Stay alert. There are often signs that change is coming. In a relationship, you can really feel when things aren't getting any better. And if you're unfulfilled in life, you'll feel like a zombie, going through day after day, doing the same thing. And if it's a career change, learn to recognize the red flags at an organization. Don't be trapped by change. Sniff it out before you become trapped. Fourth, move with the cheese. Move with change. Imagine you're swimming and a big wave is beginning to form. You have three options. 1, you can dive underneath and swim through it. 2, you can let it pulverize you. And not pulverize, but you can let it knock you around. Or 3, time it right and ride it. Now, going back to the previous point about monitoring change, it's up to you to determine what that best option is. Fifth, enjoy change. Uncertainty is exhilarating, and it's an opportunity to learn and explore what other opportunities are available. Find joy in discovery, and remember, discovery leads to growth. So at the conclusion of the story, there's a facts of the matter that says, 1, I have to find more cheese. If I don't, I'll die. 2, the maze is a dangerous place, full of dark corners and blind alleys. 3, it's up to me. I'm on my own. I do keep this facts of the matter written above my desk as a reminder that, metaphorically speaking, I'm a rat stuck in a maze in search of cheese, and I'm learning to embrace that fact. So let's talk about symbolism. First, the cheese. I've interpreted this as opportunities, but this is really what you want in life. Next, we have the maze. This represents the dark and dreary world, your career, love life, whatever. Sniff and scurry. Adaptability. They're instinctive and reactive to change. And you've got hem and haw. They're the two little humanoids. They feel fear, they overthink, and they deny the change they see. Next, moving the cheese. This represents unexpected changes beyond our control. The writing on the wall. These are the lessons from Ha as he gained wisdom from his experiences traveling through the maze. And the handwriting on the wall section is often printed as posters in workplaces to remind employees of adaptability. So as you read this book, or listen to what I'm saying here, you're going to hear this book reference time and time again. Once I read this book, it almost creeped up in podcasts, in work meetings, and TED Talks. It seemed like everyone was aware of this book, and I was late to the game. Now for underlined quotes. So some of the memorable quotes that I found are, what would you do if you weren't afraid? The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese. Smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old. Again, I like that, the monitor the change. That's why I highlighted this one. Next, when you move beyond your fear, you feel free. There's that Joseph Campbell quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that's the demon you slay, you absorb its power. I think that's very true when it comes to overcoming fears. So great quote. Last of all, movement in a new direction helps you find new cheese. There are a lot of examples in life. I keep on referencing 50 Cent just because he's such an easy go-to example, and he's a well-known celebrity. But he has been involved in music, but he was able to pivot and go in new directions and develop new skills, new connections. He's even able to build off of some of the connections that he has. That is very impressive. If we find ourselves in a position that is slowly going extinct, maybe to AI, then see that as an opportunity to go in a new direction and see where some of the skills that you do have can be applied, where they can provide value to others and help you develop a new career. We're all fully capable. It's just having a attitude that you can go in, you can learn something new, and overcoming those limiting beliefs, which is another great book. That's actually a sequel to Who Moved My Cheese, and that's called Out of the Maze. And it's actually the story of, I believe it's either him or Ha, but it talks about those limiting beliefs as you're going through the maze. In conclusion, change acts like waves on the ocean. Those waves can knock us down, or we can ride them. Those who adapt quickly survive. Stop fearing change and embrace it as an opportunity. And I'll leave a warning from Robert Greene from the 50th Law. Once again, the need for certainty is the greatest disease the mind faces. And now to add to that, I'll say that finding the cheese is the cure. Thank you very much for listening. Give us a follow on Instagram and YouTube, and stay up to date on new episodes as well as content and books that we're reviewing. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.